Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hi. So I am here. Vince, I'll let you introduce yourself so I don't mess it up.
Sure. My name is Vince Baart. I'm based on the West Coast. I'm on Vancouver Island in beautiful Victoria, BC. I'm a realtor with Remax Camosun, and it is still morning for us over here, although it's several time zones ahead over there. And I'm really excited to be chatting with Josey today. But I guess just very briefly about me. I've been in the building trades for a number of years. I've been a landlord, a property manager. I've been investing for about 8 years now. But I really only got my license about a year and a half ago because all I ever talked about was real estate. And my friend said, you should probably just go and make a career of this thing because all you ever do is talk about it. So it's absolutely a passion of mine, and I'm thrilled to be working with first-time buyers and investors from all different markets. My favorite part of my job, I have to say, Josey, is getting to be a tour guide. I am obsessed with Victoria. I love the Vancouver Island lifestyle, and my favorite part in all of this is when I get to pick up a buyer from the ferries or from the airport and drive them around Victoria as a tour guide and show them all the different neighborhoods and what makes Victoria so amazing. That's probably my favorite part of my job, but I also like the real estate stuff too.
That sounds awesome, Vince. Well, I'm excited to talk to you about what's happening in your market through all of this. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Josey Vogels, and I'm with NIagara Realty in Niagara Falls. I got my license just 9 years ago. I shouldn't say just 9 years, but it's been 9 years. I first started in an area in Ontario called Bancroft and the surrounding area, a lot of cottage country, and then we moved down to the Niagara region about a year and a half ago. My husband's from this region, and I've been really enjoying exploring a new market and building up a new business here in the Falls area. Completely different kind of market. I was doing a lot of cottage country. I was driving a lot of clients around the area where I was before, and here it's a little more of an urban market, closer to the GTA, and it's been super interesting. And so it's been really interesting to be here during this pandemic. I now you're fairly new to the business. When I first got into the business, it definitely was not, the market was pretty soft back in 2012, beginning of 2012, and a lot of people said, oh, not the best time to get into real estate. So I always say to agents, the best time to get into real estate is when things aren't great, because I think that it really forces you to exercise muscles that maybe agents who are in a booming market don't necessarily get to. So that's certainly been the case in this market. It's I think challenged all of us as realtors. Tell me what's going on there. I know I have lots to say about the Niagara market. I've been trying to keep my clients informed, but I'm dying to know what's happening on the West Coast in terms of the market.
Sure. Well, speaking about Victoria and Southern Vancouver Island, so that's a region with about 400,000 people. It went pretty quiet for a couple of weeks there. And I think anytime there's really uncertainty in the market, it's the same with the stock market, any kind of market where people are buying and selling based on trust. Whenever there's uncertainty, things kind of freeze for a bit. And so there's kind of this idea for the last couple of weeks of March, everyone kind of just went into hiding for a couple of weeks. And we saw that not necessarily with sales, because the way that a sales process works with real estate is you've really got, like, it's a multi-week and sometimes multi-month process. And so we didn't really see the effects in terms of sale price or inventory levels fluctuating, but we did see a sharp decrease in showings. Now that we're towards the end of April, we've kind of adjusted to this new normal. We've got our COVID haircuts going. We're kind of realizing that, you know what, life goes on, and the market goes on, and people continue to buy and sell. And so what's happening now is we've seen in the last, I want to say 2 weeks, a real resurgence. A lot of buyers that had gone quiet for a while, they're calling and saying, hey, how's the market? What's going on? They're kind of poking their head up out of their foxholes, and we're seeing showings start to increase again. We adjust, we glove up, we mask up, but we do have more showings happening than we have had for probably a month.
Yeah.
And so it's starting to turn around in terms of that activity, and that activity is what we would consider a lead indicator. The quantity of showings doesn't necessarily mean that prices are going to go a certain way, but it does tell us that there's interest and that consumer confidence is coming back to the market. So really, really exciting.
Well, it just goes to show you. I mean, we may be, well, I shouldn't say on different coasts because, I'm sorry, I'm doing the terrible Ontario thing of like, we are the other side of the country. But from way out there to to here in central Canada, we really are seeing the same thing. And it was the same thing that happened at the very beginning. I think there was a lot of fear, so much uncertainty, so much just not known, and everyone just kind of like, turtles pulled into our shells. And I have really just started to see people kind of climbing out that sort of, like you said, people adapting to this new normal. The sky hasn't fallen, and people are going, hey, wait a second, there's still activity. We were seeing new listings right from the get-go every day, and I was surprised by that. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing even more new listings. We're seeing, obviously not the volume of sales that we saw last year at this time, because this is the height of our spring market. But we are seeing sales, and contrary to what a lot of people were thinking, that prices were going to plummet and real estate was going to tank, we're not seeing that at all. In fact, I pulled the numbers, and compared to last year at this time, we're actually only seeing about a 1% difference in the list price to sale price ratio. So on average, last year things were selling at on average 2% below list price. This year at the same month, I just looked up the numbers for the last month, and it's about 3% below list price. So not a real price drop.
Wow. Josey, it's amazing. When I was pulling my stats this morning just to freshen up on that, and ditto. It's if you replace Niagara with Victoria, I mean, still the cliche that I've always said to people is within 3%. Usually 97% is what our asking price to our sale price is.
Right.
And we've seen that drop maybe a 0.5%, maybe. But and so then the next question is, okay, are sellers then just dropping their prices? And when you look at that, it's just not happening. You look at
Yeah.
the average price that a sale is happening at, all of those metrics. The only thing that's really that has struck me, even our listing quantity is actually not way down. It's steady. We've had a real inventory shortage for years, and so COVID isn't stopping that. When you live in a market like Victoria, if you have to sell because you're trying to cash out and you're going to buy somewhere else, if you sell high here and you want to stay here, you have to buy high. And so a lot of people just said, forget it, I'm just going to be house rich and I'm not going to move. That creates an inventory struggle. If people were leaving our market, then they'd be cashing out and we'd have more inventory. Same thing with COVID. If you don't
Right.
have to move, so inventory is low, whether it's COVID or not. The big difference though is days on market are starting to creep up. And what that translates to is just more months of inventory stacking up.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that there's more to choose from. It means that you have less buyers that are necessarily competing with you for that same listing. So you have more chance to think about it and be strategic in your offer instead of having to just frantically throw money at the seller and hope they accept your offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been surprised. I've been actually in a few multiple offer situations during this COVID situation. A lot of that has to do with the fact that, there are fewer buyers, there are fewer homes available, so the competition gets ramped up. But that's what we were seeing before this. It really was a seller's market. We have the problem similar to you that, we have low inventory. Sellers who aren't moving out of the area. Our area is kind of where people from the GTA are coming to, the Greater Toronto area are coming to, because they are cashing out and then moving down here. But then what's happening for people who are down here is, yes, it's attractive to sell because it is a seller's market, but where are they going? If they're not leaving the area, then they have to buy in the same market. So that's a challenge. I'm curious, Vince, I've been having a lot of conversations with sellers or people who were thinking about selling this spring and now have decided to hold off. What are you hearing from sellers in terms of a strategy, or what are you telling sellers in terms of a strategy as far as what to do at this point if they are kind of concerned about listing right now, if they were thinking about listing and now have decided to hold off?
Well, yeah, okay. So taking dollars and cents out of it, taking that strategy out of it, it's just having a conversation about a seller and just saying, okay, there is a health risk. There is a concern that's going on right now. And so you're taking a bit of a risk there, and you kind of have to just weigh the pros and cons. Is it something that with such low inventory, we could potentially get you a better offer? Yes. If you have 6 kids and it's a huge ordeal to leave the house for every showing, then it might make sense to just wait a little while until we've kind of come back to a new sense of equilibrium, not in terms of market stability, but just in terms of health stability, where we'll have some better solutions. It's kind of funny. I'm sure people saw at the very beginning of COVID all these memes of people wearing like these odd plastic jug things on their heads. We don't know how to behave in a COVID society. And that's the conversation I'm having with people. Someone's not going to come into your house and sneeze all over the place, but still trying to navigate that process. Even for buyers, when they're coming out, they have to think about their own safety and wearing a mask. They don't know who's been in the house. And so it's really a conversation around that and calculating that. So some sellers, what they'll do is they'll just go stay with the in-laws for a couple of weeks. Now we've got a vacant house. We've got a box of gloves waiting at the door and some hand sanitizer. We've got a new set of guidelines that everyone has to follow, and life goes on. So I think that's a bigger sense or a bigger piece of the conversation than it has ever been. Like
Right.
imagine a year ago, Josey, if you would have said to someone, I don't know, it's flu season. Are you sure you want exposure to the flu? Like that's a crazy thought. And yet every conversation that we have, whether it's 6 months from now or 6 years from now, this is going to have an imprint on our collective memory. And
Right.
so we just adjust and adapt, and that's just part of the conversation now.
Exactly. Well, and I think as realtors, we are, we're like chameleons. We have to be, right? We have to adapt to whatever's going on out
Exactly.
there. And one of the things that I've really, weirdly been grateful for is that I think that as humans, we are just slow to adapt to technology. We just are.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
and what, all the things that I've been wanting to learn and the technology I've been meaning to learn, this has kind of forced me to learn. And in terms of being able to do things virtually, doing virtual open houses, doing virtual showings. I mean, getting a seller to walk through a house with their phone while the buyer is on the Zoom call, and we're looking and they're opening up, drawers and basically following our direction. All of those things, I think that even though yes, we're learning them to adapt to this, I honestly think that those will become the new normal, and we'll sort of expect that it's going to change the buying and selling process for the long term. And this, I'm talking to sellers and sort of trying to explain this, like, let's get on board and get ahead of the curve and practice some of this stuff while we can. Let's do some, mock virtual tours and virtual showings online. And then also just the other thing I'm talking to sellers about too, is I really think that this is a great time. They're stuck at home. Like, let's talk about how you can get ahead of the curve. So when we do come out of this, because I think we're going to come out of this to like some bananas market. That's my feeling with everyone I'm talking to.
Absolutely.
While you're at home, like, let's talk about what you can be doing. Like, we're all bored at home. Like, we've watched everything on Netflix. Like, let's talk about, the things we can be doing around your house to get it ready and strategize about, how you can like be out and running and ahead of the pack when things do bounce back.
Absolutely. And it's funny. I've got a list. So I'm calling people, connecting with them. I've got a whole list of people that have said, call me when this is over. And there's this whole sense, the people are making a list of restaurants, of places, of countries they're going to go. And once we have this behind us, it's going to be bananas, like you
Yeah.
said. Really exciting. There's a whole list of people that are they're waiting for whatever reason. They've got a compromised immune system. They're just a little hesitant. They're just naturally cautious. And when this is over and behind us and we get the green light, it's going to be a green light. It's going to be a stampede. That's my feeling as well.
Yeah.
So
But I think, we keep talking about it being over and behind us, but I really think like, that idea of there being like a finite finish and then like a new beginning is just not the reality. And I think that there's going to be adjustment. And I think a lot of the things that we're learning here and how people are changing, I think it's going to change things. Like, people are working from home. They're realizing they can do that. So maybe they don't have to live where their work is. People are living with people like 24/7 that they realize, maybe I don't want to live with these people, or maybe it's not so great having the kids at home. Maybe let's help them buy their first house. I mean, there's a lot of things that are, that are forcing us to kind of to reassess our situations. But also, I think that, we're slow to change as humans, and I think that usually in if you look at history, usually it's some kind of big social upheaval that forces us to kind of move into a different era. And I really think that we're experiencing that. And I mean, not to take it to sort of a trivial level, but I think that it's going to impact how we buy and sell homes. And I think that the sooner buyers and sellers realize that and talk to us, hopefully, because I like to think, and I think you're one of those agents as well, who is always trying to learn and be ahead of the curve and figure out what's going on before it happens. It's really, I think now more than ever, really important for people to talk to us and really get a sense of things, because there's so much uncertainty to try and navigate. Let us, shine the light on the sort of uncertain path as we're going forward. That's what I'm talking to people about. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And there's always that as we have more technology, as we have all of these things, at the end of the day, when someone is making a huge purchase, a huge decision like that, it's nice to just bounce ideas off of someone. It's so helpful to have someone that's their career, that's their vocation, and that's their profession. And that is something I think now more than ever that is so critical, to just be that resource for our clients, and have those really sometimes tough conversations, and to talk people back from the ledge or talk them towards the ledge, but just to help them navigate
Hold their
all of
hand.
these huge
So
decisions.
yeah, hold their hand before they well, not jump. We don't want people jumping off ledges. Let's not even go there. But yeah, so I mean, part of the reason we wanted to talk to each other, because we are in different markets, but it's interesting when you start to, explore it, like really one market to the next. Yeah, the numbers may be a little bit different, but the trends seem to hold pretty fast and true from market to market. I don't know. I mean, is there anything that you can tell me about your market that maybe would be a little different, or factors that geographically, or anything that would make it a different situation for you out there?
Josie, truthfully, I haven't spent much time thinking about the Niagara region in my career. I haven't made it out there yet,
You
but it
must
is
come. It's
shocking to
beautiful
me.
when this is
Yeah, exactly.
over.
It it is shocking to me how many parallels there are, because you've got a really stable employment base out here. We've got 5 sectors of employment that are really recession proof. People think of Victoria as a tourist destination, and it is. And if you're a tourist, you should come. But that's not actually what drives our economy. We've got military, we've got government, both federal, provincial. We're the capital of the province. We're a very important strategic location from a shipping perspective. We've got a tech scene, which is totally the quiet corner. Like, Victoria has a growing tech hub. For a while, we had direct flights to San Francisco, and we were like the
Wow.
Silicon Valley of the North. So there are so many of these stabilizing factors that really make Victoria well positioned. And then you add into that the climate, the environment. This is a retirement place similar to Niagara. So people are, BC, the acronym Bring Cash. And so people do, and they come out here and they'll buy a house with cash and they'll just sit on it. And when you've got a lot of people choosing to make Victoria a destination, when you think about someone that would choose Victoria as opposed to, say, going south to Mexico or Arizona, if they made Victoria their retirement home, and as travel changes, I could actually see Victoria being more of a retirement destination, probably similar to Niagara. We're
Right.
living in I don't want to say shadow, because we do get more sunshine than Vancouver, but we're living, we're the cheaper cousin. We're the more reasonably priced cousin with better ocean views than Vancouver, and we do see people coming from Vancouver, and it's nice because you're close. You're a boat ride away from an international airport and the gateway to the entire Pacific. So, in terms of differences between this and Niagara, it's funny. I really thought there would be more differences, but it's not coming up. I don't know if what your impression of Victoria versus Niagara is, but we're
Well,
pretty
it's
similar.
funny. Well, I mean, I've been to Victoria, I want to say twice in my life, but it is interesting talking to you, because saying all that, I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is very similar. When we moved to Niagara a year and a half ago, my husband grew up here, but what we were just astounded by, we're like, how have more people not discovered how amazing this is? But now we're like, oh, okay, we tend to do this. We tend to always move into markets where then the next thing you know, people are like, oh, right. Now the GO train is starting to like have regular, direct service. They're extending that. The access to I mean, there's less travel between the US border, but the access to, in terms of its position, like you said, availability, easy travel, when we can travel again, getting around, and then its proximity to the GTA, but still having like so much of nature and just beautiful surroundings. There's just so much to offer. And yes, we do have tourism, but as you said, there are so many other sectors here as well that are thriving and continue to thrive. And I think think we're going to see a lot of growth in this area. So we're seeing a lot of investors come down and realizing that too. But again, I think that this area, despite what is going on now, is going to continue to grow, and people are really just starting to discover it, and it's growing. It's growing quickly and will continue to do so. So I feel confident about our market going forward. So one last thing, because we should probably go and get back to work, but so just final thoughts on, everyone wants to know, like, when is this going to be over? And none of us have crystal balls. I keep saying that, I keep using that line, but when do you think, as someone said to me, when do you think they're going to turn the lights back on?
They're going to turn them on one room at a time. And they're not going to just, it's not going to be like, that green light analogy. It's like you said, that's not going to happen. So we're going to see consumer confidence being restored in different sections. We're going to see cafes start to open up. We're going to see restaurants, hotels, a little bit of travel, and it's just going to be gradual. But if we're using the indicator, talking about real estate specifically, if we're using the indicator of showings, that's a leading indicator to show us if there are sales that are going to be happening, we're seeing that increase. So it's actually already coming back. So barring any massive, force majeure, cataclysmic events, we're going to start to see it coming back in terms of that market activity. And that is just going to keep moving us forward. Another thing that I'm really excited about is they're going to untangle all of the mortgage situation. So when April 1st hit, talk about a crazy April Fool's Day. The banks were, if anyone had the misfortune of trying to deal with a bank on April Fool's Day or right around there, it was a nightmare. And as the banks start to untangle themselves and adjust to this new level, we're going to see mortgage applications moving quickly again. And we're going to see, when you have access to easy credit and easy mortgage applications, consumer confidence comes back as well. So I think that's going to be that's one room where when they turn the lights on with the bank, that's going to be really tremendous, I think, for the turnaround.
Yeah, I spoke to a lender here last week and posted that interview, and she said the very similar thing. They were kind of scrambling, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But they're getting their ducks in a row, and things are looking pretty strong on that front. And interest rates, for all intents and purposes at this point, everyone seems to feel that they're going to continue to stay low. And I agree with the lights analogy, one room at a time. And I'm starting to see some flickering of lights over here. It sounds like you are out there. So stay safe and be well. And it was great talking to you, Vince. And hopefully we'll do this again soon.
I'd like that. Let's do that.
All right. You take care.
Josey.
Bye.
Bye-bye.